Welcome to the Silicon Fox podcast, where we explore the habits and stories of high performers. Join us as we dive into their journeys, analyze live blood tests, and break down the science behind key biomarkers to help you optimize your health. I'm your host, Mitchell Eschner, an ex-pro soccer player, a current sponsored hybrid athlete, a health tech founder, and a longevity enthusiast. Today, we're focusing on a biomarker that plays a major role in performance, recovery, and long-term health, the testosterone-to-cortisol ratio, also known as the TNC ratio. You've probably heard of testosterone as the hormone that supports muscle, strength, energy, and libido. Cortisol, by contrast, is often called a stress hormone, and it's usually thought of as negative. But the truth is more complex. Cortisol isn't inherently bad. It's essential for energy regulation, immune function, and stress adaptation. The key is balance. The testosterone-to-cortisol ratio reflects the balance. It tells us whether the body is in a more anabolic state, building and repairing, or a more catabolic state, breaking down tissue and energy stores. A higher ratio usually indicates better conditions for performance, growth, and recovery. A lower ratio signals greater stress load and less capacity for the repair. In this episode, we'll break down what determines this ratio, how lifestyle factors and medical conditions influence it, how athletes and non-athletes alike can optimize it, and why extremely high ratios can sometimes be a warning sign. Testosterone is the primary anabolic hormone. In men, normal circulating levels range from about 300 to 1,000 nanograms per deciliter. In women, the levels are much lower, but the hormone still plays important roles in muscle, bone, and overall vitality. Cortisol levels fluctuate throughout the day, usually ranging from 6 to 23 micrograms per deciliter. Cortisol is the highest in the morning, helping you wake up and mobilize energy, and lowest in the evening, which allows for the rest and sleep. Individually, these hormone levels provide useful information, but the ratio between them can often be more predictive of recovery capacity, stress load, and performance readiness than either hormone alone. That's why sports scientists and clinicians often use the TNC ratio as a marker of training status and overall health. Let's start with what elevates testosterone. Resistance training is number one. Consistent resistance training, especially compound lifts like squats, deadlifts, and presses, have been shown to raise testosterone levels. In trained men, increases of 15 to 30% above baseline are common after sustained programs. Sleep is number two. Testosterone production is highly dependent on sleep, particularly during REM cycles. Restricting sleep to fewer than 5 hours per night for just 1 week can lower testosterone by 10 to 15%. That's a rapid and significant decline. Optimal levels are supported by 7 to 9 hours of sleep, ideally with consistent timing. Nutrition is number three. Testosterone synthesis requires cholesterol as a precursor. Diets with sufficient healthy fats, especially monosaturated and saturated fats, support production. Deficiencies in vitamin D, zinc, or magnesium can impair synthesis. Correcting vitamin D deficiency alone has been shown to increase testosterone by as much as 25%. And lastly, medical conditions. Certain conditions can elevate testosterone. In women, PCOS is the most common, affecting up to 12% of women of reproductive ages. It can raise testosterone 2 to 3 times above normal, leading to symptoms like irregular cycles and acne. In both sexes, adrenal or gonadal tumors and congenital adrenal hyperplasia can also raise levels, though these are rare. On the other side of the equation, we can look at what brings cortisol down or regulates it properly. The first is stress management. Chronic psychological stress is one of the strongest drivers of high cortisol. Interventions like mindfulness and meditation reduce average cortisol levels by about 20 to 25% across studies. Social support and strong relationships buffer stress responses, and even short bouts of laughter therapy have been shown to lower cortisol substantially. Next, we have exercise. Physical activity is essential, but the type and intensity matter. Intense exercise acutely raises cortisol, but that's temporary. Over time, regular moderate activity, such as walking, yoga, or swimming, helps maintain a healthy daily cortisol rhythm. High in the morning, low in the evening. That rhythm is critical for both energy and sleep. And finally, nutrition. Diet also plays a role. Omega-3 fatty acids from fish, walnuts, and flax seeds reduce cortisol reactivity to stress. Limiting caffeine in the morning and evening prevents disruption of natural declines in cortisol at night. Certain adaptogens, including ashwagandha, have been shown to reduce cortisol levels by 25 to 30% in chronically stressed individuals. Athletes and coaches track the TNC ratio because it reflects training and readiness and recovery. A high ratio correlates with better performance outcomes, while a low ratio can signal overtraining. For example, resistance training tends to raise testosterone and increase the ratio if recovery is sufficient. But the high volume endurance training without adequate recovery suppresses testosterone, raises cortisol, and drives the ratio down. This pattern is often seen in overtraining syndrome. Nutrient timing also matters. Consuming protein and carbohydrates within 30 to 60 minutes post-exercise blunts the cortisol surge and supports testosterone recovery. Athletes who consistently refuel after training maintain a more favorable hormonal profile than those who neglect post-workout nutrition. The TNC ratio changes with ages and differs between men and women. In men, testosterone peaks in the late teens to early 20s and declines by about 1 to 2% every year after the age of 30. Cortisol patterns often remain stable, but lifestyle factors can accelerate decline in the ratio. Men who train, sleep adequately, and eat well preserve a higher ratio much longer than sedentary peers. In women, testosterone is lower overall, but still biologically significant. It peaks around ovulation, then declines during premenopause and menopause. At the same time, cortisol regulation can become less stable. Together, these changes make maintaining hormonal balance especially important for energy, mood, and musculoskeletal health in midlife and beyond. Practical steps to improve the testosterone cortisol ratio fall into three broad categories: sleep, training, and nutrition. Prioritize 7 to 9 hours of quality sleep with consistent training. Maintain a cool, dark sleep environment and limit screen exposure before bed. Incorporate resistance training 3 to 4 times per week. Allow for recovery days and avoid chronic overreaching. Endurance training can still be beneficial but should be balanced with recovery. Consume a nutrient-dense diet with sufficient protein, healthy fats, and micronutrients. Correctly time protein and carbohydrate intake post-exercise to blunt cortisol spikes and support recovery. Engage in mindfulness or meditation practices. Maintain strong social connections and limit chronic psychological stress when possible. Moderate caffeine intake, particularly later in the day. Consider evidence-based adaptogens like ashwagandha if stress remains high. Sources say that vitamin D, magnesium, zinc, and vitamin B6 all support balance, but supplementation should be based on confirmed needs through testing. Blood testing is the most direct way to track the TNC ratio. Quarterly testing is appropriate when actively working to optimize hormones. Once stable, testing every 6 months is often sufficient. Subjective markers are equally important. Improvements in energy, mood, libido, exercise, and recovery, and sleep are all reliable signs that ratio is shifting in the right direction. While a high ratio usually signals good balance, extremely high values can be problematic. Artificial testosterone supplementation or anabolic steroid use elevates the ratio but carries risks: cardiovascular issues, mood disturbances, and fertility problems. Very low cortisol, when absolute rather than just relative testosterone, can signal adrenal insufficiency or Addison's disease. Symptoms include fatigue, weight loss, low blood pressure, and skin darkening. These require medical evaluation. The key point is context. A healthy high ratio from lifestyle practices is beneficial. A high ratio from exogenous hormones or diseases is not. The testosterone-cortisol ratio is a valuable biomarker that reflects the balance between building and breakdown, recovery and stress. Optimizing it requires attention to fundamentals: quality sleep, structured resistance training, balanced nutrition, effective stress management, and appropriate recovery. The ratio is not about chasing extreme numbers, but about maintaining a balance that supports vitality, physical performance, and long-term health. By consistently applying evidence-based strategies, most people can achieve meaningful improvements in their hormone profile and resilience. Thank you for tuning in today. I hope you've gained some insight into this biomarker. If you found this episode helpful, be sure to subscribe and share with others who might benefit. And as always, I encourage you to take charge of your health by staying informed and being proactive about your body signals. Thank you, and we'll see you next time on the Silicon Fox podcast.